In this video, we'll cover the steps to perform a forced reload on the following Proxim products via ScanTool version 3.1.3. The Tsunami Quickbridge 10100 series and the ORiNOCO Quickbridge 9100 series. Okay, a couple quick notes. Units with firmware version 6.0.x, it is required to enter the Endpoint B's MAC address and the Endpoint A's configuration to establish a connection. So units with firmware version 6.3.0 and above, it is not required to enter the Endpoint B's MAC address and the Endpoint A's configuration to establish a connection. So as the forced reload works at the bootloader level, VLAN configuration will not impact the procedure. When performing a forced reload on the Quickbridge 10100, both radios are going to revert back to Endpoint A. To reestablish an RF link, the far end unit will have to be changed to Endpoint B. Now, on the Quickbridge 9100, it's a little bit different. So when you're going to perform a forced reload, they actually don't change. So the Endpoint A is going to stand Endpoint A and the Endpoint B is going to stand Endpoint B. So once the firmware is reloaded, the radios are going to reestablish without any other configuration changes other than IP addresses. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cover how to do a forced reload on the QB-10100 and ORiNOCO 9100 series with the ScanTool 3.1.3. Using this particular ScanTool, as noted down here, has the ability to do a forced reload, which means that we are completely getting rid of the image. And so we could go ahead and reload from scratch. Now, with every other forced reload, you are going to need a few things. One, you're going to need a TFTP server. Okay, I have SolarWinds TFTP here. And you're also going to need the image itself. Okay, so as you can see, here is my image. All right. Now, each TFTP server could be different, could be the same, but the configuration here is similar. Just make sure that you have the your TFTP root directory, which in this case it's TFTP root, pointing, and here is my image. Okay, and that is basically that. Now, one important item I have to mention is that when you're doing the forced reload using the ScanTool, you have to make sure that the radio is directly connected to the NIC of the PC, not to a switch, not to a router. It has to be directly connected to it. Okay, as it states right here, very, very important. If not, its process is going to fail. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the process itself is quite simple. Go ahead and select your radio. And let's go ahead and do a quick scan. Okay, so this is my radio right here, my 835. Just go ahead and push the reload reset button. Okay, it tells you, again, it must be directly connected to a PC through Ethernet. Okay, and you must have the ability to power the radio on and off. Okay, so either directly from the PoE or from the power source, but you have the ability to directly turn it off. So let's go ahead and click OK. Okay, so as we're looking here, you're going to see a reload and a reset. Okay, we already covered the reset. Let's go ahead and cover the reload. Go ahead and push the reload button. Going through a process. Here it is right here. Ensure boot P TFTP server are configured. We're going to turn it off. We're going to click OK, and then we're going to turn it back on. Okay, so now all it becomes is a waiting game. Okay, reload request operation, waiting for device to respond. Now remember, because we powered it off and powered it back on, the radio has to go through its boot cycle. Okay, so now it's initialized successfully. If you see this, means we are successful in the process. The beginning processes of the forced reload. All right, so there it is right there. The reload operation triggered successfully, and we could go ahead and close the window. So now the rest of the reload process will just be fairly similar if you're familiar with Proxim products. We're going to have to wait a few minutes until the radio is going to reboot, and we're going to use the scan tool to scan it, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the radio is back. We did a rescan, and it popped up here. All right. Now, the way that I know that the radio is in the forced reload state is when you highlight the radio, click change, you're going to see the TFTP server and the image file name available. That is available means that the radio is in the forced reload state. There is no firmware on the radio. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to set it to static, enter your IP information. Okay, now this is going to go back to default 169 after the image is loaded, but we need all this so it could bind in the IP stack. The read-write password is going to be public, and then your TFTP server IP address, that's going to be the IP address of your NIC. Typically, your TFTP server is going to bind to that, and then, of course, your image file name. The best way to do it is, so there's no typos, is just to go to wherever the image is. You could go to right-click properties, or you could just go rename and then just do a copy and paste. Okay, and then now that right there is the easiest way to make sure that that there is no typos. After you're done, just go ahead and click OK. It's going to reboot. Now, what we should see is same information as we have here, where it says started and then completed. Now, this process takes about a minute or so because it has to reboot. It has to do the boot P. After boot P fails, it starts looking for a TFTP server. Once that's completed, then once again we're looking at another 2 minutes or so until the radio reboots again, and then we'll be able to use the scan tool to detect the radio again, and then we'll be able to change the IP address and reboot it. So as you can see here, there we go. We started, we completed. Now the radio is rebooting. We're going to wait. There's 2 minutes. Once again, once that's done, go ahead and click rescan, and what you'll see is the information that was previously before the TFTP server IP address, and the image file name is no longer available. It's going to be grayed out. Okay, so I just did a rescan. You can see our radio is back. If I click change, as mentioned, the TFTP IP address and the image file name, they're grayed out. That means that the radio has an image. Now we could go ahead and just set the IP address, mask, and gateway. Read-write's going to be public. Click OK. Radio's going to reboot. After another 2 more minutes, you will be able to access the radio via HTTP. Okay, so we are back up after the forced reload of our radios. What we are looking at here is the setup wizard. Okay, I have connected both radios to the same Ethernet port, so we could show this simultaneously. There is no RF link right now because remember, both radios end up to be endpoint A's. Okay, one has to be A, the other one has to be B. Okay, and the far end radio, the B, has a MAC address, the wireless MAC address that the A radio requires, which I'm going to cover. Okay, so right here we have, this is the A right here, and here's the B. Okay, fairly basic info. We have whatever the device name is, your this is your quality of service. Don't worry about that. This is not required for communication, but if you want to go ahead and set it up right now, go ahead. IP address, all the information, go ahead and click next. Okay, so the network name is going to be set by default. Okay, here is our endpoint A. Okay, so your local radio is going to be A, the foreign radio is going to be B. Okay, so here's that MAC address that we were talking about. Okay, so the radio itself won't have the MAC address in its wizard. You would have to click on Summary. Okay, and here's the wireless MAC address right here. Right? Definitely recommend you copying this before you do the reset, if possible. If not, not a problem. It's right over here. All right, we're going to go here and we are going to paste it. All right, just let's make sure that our country is the same, megahertz is the same. All right, we're going to do the within the wizard. You want your A radio typically to have the auto channel select disable, okay, and enable on the far end radio. All right, so once we finish that, go ahead and so what we could do is, for now, let's hold off. Let's go to the B radio. Okay, same information. All right, click next. Okay, so this one is set to B. Right. I went ahead and did that, so go ahead and set to B. Make sure that this is here. Okay, we have all this information set correct. Click next. This is for your access point. Okay, whatever you want for the access point. If this is a QB-10100, of course, you're not going to have this particular feature. Okay, this is only the QB-9100 series has the built-in access point. The QB-10100 is just a Quickbridge point-to-point, so you're not going to have this. You're only going to have these two. Right? Then go ahead and click Finish and click OK. All right, and then go ahead and do the same thing, Finish and OK. Both radios are going to reboot. Okay, so we are back. Here is the A radio, and here is the B radio. Okay, if you do not make those specific changes with the MAC address and changing the remote radio from A to B, the link is not going to happen. If you have any questions, always feel free to contact Proxim Technical Support. All right, so here we are. We are looking at the setup wizard for version 6.3.0. Okay, so one of the major differences between this version and the older version is 6.0.2 or 0.4 is you do no longer require the MAC address from the Endpoint B entered in the Endpoint A radio. Right, basically everything is the same. So here is the A. Okay, over here is the B, right? So basically all we're going to do is make sure that you fill out all your IP address info. Okay, click next. Make sure that you fill in your radio mode. Okay, after a reset or reload, both radios are going to go back to radio mode A. Okay, so we're on the A. Make sure this stays on an A. And in the B, make sure that you turn it from A to B. Okay, make sure that we have our channel bandwidth is the same. Our encryption, if encryption is enabled. Okay, by default, we have the auto channel selection is going to be disabled for the A radio. Okay, and it's enabled for the B, so you can't change it. After you're done, just go ahead and click Next. So this is a QB-9100. The B radio, you have the Wi-Fi information. Just go ahead and click Next, and then Finish. It's going to reboot on the A radio. Just go ahead and click Finish. Okay. After it's done, you're going to have your warp connection. To learn more about Proxim Wireless and our solutions, please visit us at proxim.com or follow us at Twitter @Proxim.